Hi, I'm Sarfaraz Shaikh, better known as Faraz to my close ones. At present, working with Ahmedabad Mirror as senior assistant editor, doing my best to, prove my abilities and also to help my newspaper grow.
Sarfaraz, welcome to the podcast, and really happy the students are going to listen to some very, very interesting perspectives of journalism, which I think has not come out so far. But something which no Google concept gives me, no Google search gives me, is a dip into your past.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here for this
A pleasure is always ours.
things and talk. And actually, what do you want to start with?
So I think start from where you started off. I mean, before you became a journalist,
You're an incident where I started off with. I was there in Surat. I did my journalism from Surat Narmada University and
perfect.
got a first job in Asian Age. And there was one, a press conference which was addressed by Manoj Prabhakar.
Okay.
So I used to handle sports at that time. So in that press conference, Manoj, it was a tournament to be held in Surat, and Manoj said that we will give you the results in advance.
Wow.
So I just, spontaneously said, how can the results be advanced? Well,
You were the head of time.
yeah, so we had a sort of verbal deal, and then all of us journalists left. But then again in Surat, as you know, the journalism is a very typical type of a thing there. You have to create a syndicate, create a cartel, and the one person, the senior person, I was very young at the time. I'm talking about 2095.
1995.
I was very young at the time.
This was before the scandal, right?
Before the
Scandal that Manoj Prabhakar, Kapil Dev wala.
that was in Surat. That was after the scandal.
After the scandal.
After the scandal.
Okay.
Yeah. It was say about 96, 97.
Perfect.
So in Surat, you have to be the part of the cartel, and that's not my.
They call it syndicate, right?
They call it syndicate, and the most senior journalist would sit. They used to gather around collector office, and the most senior journalist would dictate things. And
Story.
but that I didn't take it, and so I left Surat.
But no, before you leave Surat also. So did you always knew that you were into journalism? Was there a kind of a streak? How does one identify that?
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing. My whole family is with the police department. So my grandfather was an officer of Indian police.
Okay. British Times. Perfect.
My brother is with a central agency. And I also passed GPSC, both written
and physical.
in 1992.
Wow.
So having seen, the police walas in the house, their temperament, the oral interview was to be taken by Mr. Ranison, who was the former police commissioner of Ahmedabad.
All right.
When my grandfather was SP Crime Branch at the time. So I was bound to get through because he was an illustrious officer. So I went away from my home. I ran away.
Oh.
I disappeared for 15 days.
Wow.
Because I didn't want to join
the police force. Oh.
But then ended up being a crime reporter.
Interesting. Technically the other side of the police force anyways.
The other side of the police department.
Wow.
So that is how all it started. And it started most importantly when I came to Ahmedabad.
Okay. Again, sorry, I'll still delve into Surat. So were you good at writing, very good at reporting, were you good at finding out stories? You knew what sells, what stories people get. Was that natural?
It was natural, yeah. I had that instincts. I had that blood in me, that investigative blood.
Interesting.
So
I think not only reporting, but crime reporting was kind of ordained for you.
Yeah, it was.
Interesting. So let's come to Ahmedabad,
Yeah.
So Surat cartel or syndicate let you go, and you had to...
I'm not comfortable with it. People dictating things to me, I'm never comfortable with it.
Nobody should be.
Being a journalist, you have to be a rebel.
Exactly.
Right. And that rebel blood in me said, okay,
true.
No, that's not my...
At least in the 90s, the journalists did not like to be dictated.
Yes. Young at that.
Journalists.
Young.
True.
So I came to Ahmedabad, say in 2000. And the first big incident which I saw was that earthquake.
2000, January 20th.
Terrible thing. 9:15 in the morning, and people rushing off their...
On a day we journalists had a holiday. The only day...
January, yeah.
Yeah.
On holiday.
Yeah, we all went on holiday.
But then, so that was the thing in the whole day, looking at dead bodies hanging from
True.
the hand rods in the building, and that was a bit traumatic for me because I had seen dead bodies for the first time because I was into sports journalism at that time. But then that Sheila Lake apartment,
Yeah. Mansi, they
bodies hanging from that iron rods.
Speaking to the
out of that pillar.
Speaking to the family.
Really shook me off.
Yeah. The worst were the stories coming of survivors. I mean, it was
actually I was happy at the time that somebody has survived.
Right.
Somebody had the guts or the will to live on. And then stayed under the debris for, say, nearly 48.
36 hours. That's the story I broke in these days. Chirag and Piyari.
It was heartwarming, actually. I got motivated by this.
No, my perspective was I was at Indian Express.
Yeah.
And then I used to write stories of survivors, which means the guy has gone out to buy milk, comes back, sees the entire family dead.
Yeah.
The cricketer.
Actually.
Yeah.
Actually.
There's enough stories like that.
Yeah, actually.
And those were very scary. It's already giving us goosebumps.
Yeah. See.
Same here. Wow.
The worst part was the Kutch. Ahmedabad was still scary. 700 deaths.
Yes.
In Ahmedabad alone. Buildings coming down, That literally...
Not easy. Yeah, I mean, we went to the burial grounds, smashans, and we saw bodies piled up, left hand, just ready to be posted or sacked. Then I think the travel to Kutch must have been more difficult.
Fault. I'm sorry for saying that, but of the builders.
100%, yes.
Right.
I would say, I mean, see...
you see the Mansi Tower wala episode, they had a swimming pool on the top.
True.
And what happened?
No, but tell me, as a reporter, we see both sides of the story.
Yeah.
Do we always want to blame the builders? Why don't we say, as individuals, and don't we have the sense of understanding what is right or wrong? I mean...
You had never seen the earthquake of this magnitude before.
True, but at the same time, there has to be some element of permissions taken by structural builders to ensure
That's what I say.
We don't do that.
That is what I say.
As individuals also, we are equally to blame, no?
They have to.
There was a penthouse guy who had money.
Once they are out to purchase a flat or a house.
True.
They have to go through the papers.
True.
And that is when that ISO thing came up.
Yes.
The RERA came up.
Very much. Very much.
So,
very much.
Now each and every building, including the Times of India.
The Pandya Chambers.
Not Pandya.
So the other one.
Vejalpur print.
Achha, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Even there.
I reported 7 deaths.
That same space.
That same space. So, yes, people should look into it as far as, buying a house or a flat in a multi-storied building. You have to first go to the papers, how it's built. Is it built according to the norms? RERA permissions have been taken or not? Or any other norm.
Obviously. Then must have come the most painful part of Gujarat's history, 2002?
2002, yeah. 2002, what I actually... on 27th of
February.
Right. So the dead bodies were being brought to Ahmedabad. And I was on my way to the office. I'll tell you very frank.
Yeah, of course, yes.
This is just an open talk and there's an open heart.
Obviously.
I have... people were there to help me out,
Obviously.
from both the communities.
True.
So that is what the spirit of Gujarat is.
True.
So I was, near that ISRO road, opposite to that satellite police station. And I saw some smoke. People gathered there. So that journalistic instinct in me, suddenly said, okay,
something.
You have an iCard with you, you have other identities, so you should stop among the mob, amid the mob. So I straight away took my bike, parked it near the mob, and said, Mia, wo yahan sudi aayi kya? So one of them said, nah, yahan dur achha hai. Acha. Then I turned back, went home, drank 3 bottles of water, and then at 4 o'clock again came down in the field.
And there was the Ravji's building? No, there's not the smoke was...
The smoke was coming from Naurampura side. I think it was Bata.
But
it was a huge fire, so the smoke was very visible, the dark lights.
Obviously. Back then, a lot of, I was working for a radio station and we took a trip and we realized almost every place is all where.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That was that.
How do you handle that? That as a reporter and as a Muslim
institution for which I was working with, I don't want to name that because.
All right.
Names institution, but it was a national institution. They had issued iCard by the name of Shrikant Acharya to me.
Oh.
So the Naroda Patiya, the Naroda Gam episode, the Meghani Nagar episode, I covered under the name of Shrikant Acharya. But the other side of the story is that people knew me. They knew me as Sarfaraz Shaikh.
Obviously.
Right. I used to sit in Khadia with my Hindu friends. They never had that feeling.
Agreed.
Right.
True.
I used to sit near IIM. They knew me as Sarfaraz. Had no such feeling. Even I'll give you an example. Shah, I won't name him, just he is fond of omelets. Right. So in the dead of the night during that dreadful period, he used to call me up and said, yeah, people call me Faraz at home.
Obviously.
Near me call me Faraz instead of Sar. Faraz, yaar, omelette khao se. Omelette khana hai.
Obviously.
So I used to go to Ambawadi, pick him up, bring him to my house, give him some good stuff, and drop home. So it was,
No, but these are good, heartening stories. But did you feel any betrayal of sort from people? Not through the entire episode?
Entire episode, never.
Wow.
Never. That is what I know. I'm proud about of being a Gujarati. That is what I'm proud of being a Gujarati. Because the people who knew me as Sarfaraz never ever did anything which would hurt my feeling, or never even utter a word like that that would hurt me. So I'm proud of my friends.
Wow.
And proud of being a Gujarati, yes.
Brilliant. I mean, so then how did journalism take off from there? I mean, you must be proud of multiple...
Post-Godhra riots.
Exactly.
Post-Godhra riots, right. So that was more dangerous reporting about that. Because Atul, you might be knowing.
Of course, yeah, very well.
He unfortunately
passed away, yes.
Died in a road accident. But then now imagine Sarfaraz and Atul reporting for that. So that tells you the whole story.
Agreed.
Right.
Fair. Absolutely. Yeah. At least to us for sure.
Yes.
But to the viewers, you might want to elaborate a bit.
For the viewers, it is Atul and Sarfaraz. Sarfaraz on the back seat of a bike and Atul driving. We were on our way to Naroda Gam, and somewhere near Bapunagar we were intercepted by a crowd. And Atul just pinched me and said, don't say your name. I had the card of Shrikant Acharya, so I was ready for that. And pardon me for saying that. They said, want to burn some sort of settlements, so we need petrol.
So bike.
There was no other option but to
get from the bike.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So that was some tragic moments. There were good moments also where when we got stuck somewhere, some Hindus who were totally unknown to me and to Atul also, they just
let you pass.
Safeguarded us. So there's two sides of the story.
Obviously.
And of course, riots.
The easier one,
Original Gujarati heart, full of sympathy, kindness, and the other part, both the communities.
Obviously, yeah. And I think, of course, what sells is the difficult stories. I mean, the ones that are more of crime.
I would slightly differ that I think such stories which actually, motivates a person that is nothing like, this communal element in the society. It's just the 2% of people from both the communities, from every community as well. They are the true culprits, not the 98%. Now I'll give you an example. A lot of Muslims, faced the wrath of the law. But who were the advocates fighting for them? Just tell me, name them.
Essentially.
Who was it?
Hindus, essentially.
So,
true.
That is the spirit of Gujarat.
True. I mean, I think in the face of law,
no Muslim advocate stood up, except a few are.
Obviously.
A couple of them. So that is it. Now you take the example of the Calcutta girl, being arrested. Who was the advocate of that girl?
I was Muslim, absolutely, yes.
That is what India is,
Wow. Very heartening to listen to this. Wow. Especially when you've been in the thick of the thing.
Yes.
When you understand the thing, you've seen the things up close and coming from you, it carries a lot of weight.
I'll tell you one thing. The Haren Pandya murder. He was brought to VS hospital, and I would not name that family. He was from BJP. A close friend of mine, still a close friend of mine, was just standing next to me. And he said, Sarfaraz, you leave now. Because the mob is getting angry. Now imagine a BJP MLA telling a Sarfaraz, a person named Sarfaraz, that you just leave because the mob is,
getting angry.
So these are heartening things. Yeah? Not everybody is criminal in this part of the state, country.
Very interesting.
It's very heartening and very, I still talk to him. We just met about 3-4 days back and we remembered those days. And there's a wrong perception in the common people that, if a person is affiliated to BJP, then he is a communally minded
right wing or whatever.
It's totally wrong. Who have benefited the most from the government scheme? Tell me.
Fair enough. True.
Poor Muslims.
Obviously, yes.
Was there any discrimination in that?
It, of course, economically backward. It included Muslims.
That's it.
Absolutely, true.
That's it.
There was no specific
Political tricks, they are a different thing, True. But what happens on the ground, one has to look at that.
So how is it difficult to separate your emotion when it comes to reporting? I mean, I'm sure you've reported tragedies, like a number of them.
Yes.
So how do you separate your emotions?
As time passes by, you get very much acquainted to this. I have taken my lunch over dead bodies, over decomposed bodies.
Okay.
Right, a decomposed body, a murdered body is lying, and I'm hungry and I'm eating a sandwich. So as time goes by, you get habituated to that.
Do you get very desensitized? Because
actually, yes.
Because I remember on the newsroom we used to have कि यार आज 100 लोग मरे यार 150 हो गए तो फिर बड़ी स्टोरी बनेगी.
The worst part of the newsroom. Sorry, but that's the fact. Huh?
Yeah, no.
If there are 2 or 3, that's say a Morbi collapse, ditch collapse, right? It'll badi ghatna ho gayi. Come on. So
excitement,
but so there are no emotions then.
That's what I was saying. I mean, completely desensitizing.
The moment you leave the office premises after reporting that, then you churn those things. 36 people dead, 143 people dead. And you are writing things, you are asking people how many dead, how many still alive, are they going to die, are they critical?
So constantly updating how many more, critical kya halat hai.
The nights are sleepless.
Also, I think the most difficult part is talking to survivors. I think you mentioned a story about the constable. You want to recall that?
Yeah. That happened way back when I was with Bhaskar. There was a little sort of information which was passed on to me by a constable, a source, that a head constable has committed suicide and he has jumped into the river from Sardar Bridge. So it was a very small incident. But then again, I thought, okay, if a person is in khaki has committed a suicide, then let me go at this point. So I was there, his dead body was lying there, and then barely 5 minutes into it, a 15-16-year-old girl, came running in, weeping and screaming and all things. Papa utho. He said that in Gujarati. That girl said it in Gujarati. Ke Papa utho. Where is my Activa? You promised me an Activa when I'll pass my 10th. So that shook me off because I was the only journalist there. So I was just writing what the girl was saying and totally emotionless. But when I started writing the story in the office, the whole emotions came out and I penned down those emotions in the story. And that story was read across the country. The other newspapers had carried a constable commit suicide because a prisoner from the jail had escaped from his escort.
Under his escort.
So that is how things happen. So on that particular day, I went to my editor. I still remember. Pranav Golwelkar was my editor and Ajay Umat.
Of course, so that's the RE editor.
That was the
group editor. Yes, true. Editor.
Was the state editor. And I said, I'm resigning today. So they said, why? I have never reported such things. Looking at a girl, 15, 16-year-old, asking for an Activa from her dead dad. So that's all. I cannot do it. But they convinced me how.
Obviously. Did you go and meet the girl again after the story? Do you think it's a good idea as a journalist to follow up that way?
I could not muster strength to meet her. I could not. Because revisiting that girl would again revisiting the same things.
Because crime reporting is probably the most toughest part of the entire reporting experience, right?
I think, yes, it is the toughest job and it is the most thankless job.
And of course, a 24-hour job, not to mention.
Keeper's job.
Yeah.
You gather all the trash thrown
absolutely
at you from the leg side, from the offside. I was a state level cricketer.
Wow.
And was a wicket keeper also. So at that time, I was gathering the crests thrown by the bowler. And now being a crime reporter, I also gathered.
Sure.
So it's, crime reporting is all about passion, not about, earning your bread.
True.
Yeah, it's part of, I think you have to get a good salary for that. But again, it's not all about salary. It's about passion.
Because, I mean, I'm sure there must have a lot of threats also coming to you when it comes to reporting.
I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah, please.
I vigorously reported on the 26 July 2008 serial blast which happened in Iran. There were 53 people that died. The 34 people who died at the civil hospital trauma room was in front of my eyes.
Oh, God.
I saw that fellow. I saw a Wagoner car was parked under a tree, a neem tree, and all of a sudden the bomb went off.
Okay.
And there was a person standing near that car. His body was cut into two. The door of the Wagoner flew about 100 meters and struck up in the tree.
Wow.
So at that time it was vigorously reported. I even figured out it was an investigative story before the police could figure it out. Okay, what could be the route taken by Atif Amin, who was
main conspirator
and a big terror, that thing. How could he have fled Ahmedabad or Agarbatti Wala from Vadodara? So they used to stay, they had hired a house in Mohammadi Society in Dadar. It was owned by one Hawap, I still remember. So the most possible route which they could have taken was, going through Narol and then Express Highway. So we got the CCTV access. And we wrote a story, they fled by this.
Wow.
So that actually proved right.
Oh.
That Agarbatti Wala had used that route.
There also, I mean, it's also an interesting thing because you're technically competing with the police to get the information faster than them, to be reporting better than them.
I reported the whole episode. Say after 9-10 days, I got a call from my wife. I was staying at that time in a one-room kitchen flat, and she told me that some people have come to the house and are asking for you. So I told my editor that this is a thing, and I have to go home. So at that time, I remember I had a Wagoner car. So I went home. I took my kid, was say 10 years old at the time. My daughter was just 8 years old. My wife in the car. And my son said, they used to call me Bebe. Bebe is mother in Punjabi.
Okay.
So both the kids used to call me Bebe. Bebe, मुझे पता है ये कौन सी मस्जिद में है. So I took the car there, parked in front of the masjid, went inside the masjid, and my son identified that this was the fellow who came. And I told him, we are 4 arguable. Do anything you want.
Wow.
But I will not stop riding. Some of the pan shops in Juapara, they even, did not give me cigarettes.
Wow.
And I have a heavy smoker. But they didn't give me cigarettes because I was writing. They were not writing against Muslims,
That's difficult.
I was writing against terrorists.
But question is,
who had taken lives of 53 innocent people.
Especially 30.
People are, astonished about that Pahalgam attack. If they would have seen that attack in the civil hospital in Ahmedabad, it was even worse. Even worse. Blown to pieces at blood all the way on the floor.
Yeah. And especially when it was so brilliantly planned. I mean, it's sad to say brilliant. I mean, it's not like they take the bodies and then it takes
17 places, 21 bombs planted. 29 planted in Surat, which fortunately didn't.
Yeah, they were recovered and there was a massive thing.
The chip they used was of a washing machine, which didn't work. But otherwise, Surat would have been more worse than Ahmedabad at that time.
This is of course coming from the community which is unfortunately emotionally driven. There's no logic when it comes to terrorism or anything else, right? And be it Hindu, Muslim, I'm not getting there, right? But at the same time, so there also must be threats coming from the officials also, because police also must be fairly...
No.
That doesn't come in?
No.
That's never been a part of your... Because I've also heard of a lot of crime reporters saying, yeah, police wale ko report karna padega, corruption hai.
In a very balanced manner. If you're on a table of a journalist, sitting there in your office, you have to be very balanced. If you are a Muslim, you don't have to identify yourself as a Muslim while writing.
Obviously not.
It has to be a balanced.
And a reporter. You're a reporter. Crime reporter. Period.
Your ideology may be anything, but that ideology comes to light when you leave the office premises, not on the tape.
Yeah. And not
journalists who faced the wrath of the police were those who wrote one-sided stories.
Their ideologies were defined on the paper rather than... Oh, interesting. Well, that's something unfortunately...
You remember one who sought asylum in you.
Sorry, come again?
You might be remembering one journalist who sought asylum in UK. It's better not to take it.
Okay.
But that was the case with him. I never have been threatened by the police. How much negative I write about them. Because they understand.
Also, as a crime reporter, you also have to look at the police perspective also. Because honestly speaking, they also very like if you look at this RCB happening right now, I mean, I personally wrote about it and I said, what the hell? I mean, why do you always blame the police first? Why do they have to suspend? Of course, they had to be aware of it. They had to complicit. They had to manage it. They did not. But then, what is the political class not being persecuted for the role they played? They took photographs. They got selfies. Everything done. And then police, when it comes to punishment, punishment against police only, and then some political secretary.
And Kohli,
even worse. Imagine.
Virat Kohli. How is he responsible?
No, I'm saying he has to be sensitive. He has to be aware. And in the process, he has to cancel. Okay, fair. He did what his job should have happened. Everybody managing him should have taken care of the whole thing. But where is the political... Exactly. Yeah. And where is the political head cutting? Nothing happening.
Nothing has happened.
So that is where I think as crime reporters, one of the other things you must be seeing both the human side of the police also. Any experiences that way? I mean...
They are also human beings.
So any story that...
Just 3 days back, I wrote an article about this fake cow vigilantes.
Yeah, I read it.
I had the police commissioner called me up, Chiz Malik, in the morning and said, I've never seen a balanced article than this.
Right.
Because that article carried that fake cow vigilantes are there.
Yes.
But on the other side, today is, what do you call it? Bakri Eid.
That's right.
So the Muslims also should take care that not to throw those waste on the road.
Absolutely.
It's our city.
Sensitized in both ways.
Sensitivity to keep it.
Absolutely.
Not to hurt the sentiments of other community.
I think I think you also wrote about the distribution of black bag.
Right.
Yes, I remember that. I read that.
So as a journalist, you will be worried about your city.
True.
First of all, it is your country. Then it's your state. Then it's your city. Then it is you as a journalist. And finally, your religion has to take the seat.
So tell me, how does the toll take on its family? I mean, of course, a brilliant example you gave right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do they react on a
daily? No social lives.
Okay. Is it a boycott or is it a choice of...
I as a journalist have no social.
No journalist has.
My daughter is in Canada. I've lost my son. I'm
so sorry.
At the age of 19.
Oh, sorry.
So the only person in Ahmedabad is me and my wife. So I leave, say, about 1 in the noon. Come back at around about, 12:30. Just go through the social media and watch a good Hollywood movie because I'm literally not interested in this bullshit Bollywood movies.
Do you watch crime thrillers?
Exactly. I watch crime documentaries. Investigative documentaries. So,
kind of homework for the way.
Homework and, a journalist is always a student. At any stage. As a student, he has to learn more. So for that purpose, you have to watch some good investigative documentaries.
Agreed. Interesting.
I just watch documentaries. My wife is busy with, chatting with her daughter. How are you and what are...
Obviously, that typical mothers, they would always be constantly in touch. Yeah, absolutely.
We hardly talk. I go to sleep at about 2:30 in the night. I wake up at about 8.
And with the fear that phones aayega raat ko and you might have to just journey.
Off late, I have made it very clear that I switch off.
So you have a distinction of being the most stories, whose most stories have been picked up suo moto by the courts.
One of them.
So wow. So why don't you tell me top 3 or top 4?
I'll tell you top 2. One was about a woman based in Gomtipur area. I just got information that a lady is forcing young minor girls into peddling stuff, drugs.
Oh, God.
So I worked upon that story for about 6 months, got it videographed, and published the story under the heading of Majjo. Her name was Majjo.
Okay.
So that story went front page with only the name as the heading, Majjo.
Majjo.
It was taken up suo moto by Gujarat High Court, and 3 days later, Majjo was arrested.
Wow.
So I will be very happy to take the credit of saving the lives of those minus girls.
Absolutely.
But again, I've learned, say about a fortnight ago, that she started it all again. That is,
obviously unfortunate. Very unfortunate.
I managed to teach her a lesson.
Absolutely.
I had even that knowledge that the local cops had an access with her. So that is why she was, being let off each and every time. She was being informed when an agency was to raid by the local cops. And he said, just remove her stuff. But this time, they had no other option because the High Court had ordered it.
Wow.
The second was about a couple from South Bhopal who was returning from a Thailand trip. And they were intercepted near the toll plaza by 3 policemen and 3 home guard jawans. So we published the story. The High Court took it suo moto, and 3 policemen were arrested.
Wow.
In that. The third story was about the network of CCTV cameras.
Interesting.
In the city. So the police commissioner claimed, the senior police officers, I would rather say, that they had a huge network of CCTV cameras in the city, and this would be a deterrence for the criminals. We did a story, but 40% are not working.
I remember that was a pretty major story, front page, yes. True.
So the High Court had ordered to install those.
Yeah, this also was a part of a reel where I think one of the judges in a court was mentioning that tum karte to magar 40%. Somebody I think took up the video of a police inquiry happening in the police station, and then the judge actually reminded, कि boss lega ही ना क्यों नहीं लेगा 40% कैमरा वैसे ही चलते नहीं है.
I tell you, there is a strict directive that every police station should have a
CCTV camera.
Cameras.
Yeah.
Camera installed. But you can barely find out a police station where a CCTV is installed inside the police station.
Interesting. I think the best word is no comments in this case.
Yeah.
So,
but nowadays, the police is becoming a bit transparent.
I'm sure.
They've started installing cameras. Yes, but cameras which have that lens outside rather than inside.
Obviously. Point. I think it's some time before the system will change.
They have their own way of tackling things.
True.
A cop is a cop, and he has to act in a certain way.
Makes sense. True.
So otherwise, the criminals are not holy cows.
Exactly. You can't have cameras in the investigation rooms, obviously.
I've said it all now. The criminals are not holy cows.
True.
So if you ask them, did you do this? No, yes, I did. They won't say that.
Obviously not.
So there are ways of interrogation, and they actually need them.
So if a Karnavati University has a course, of course it does have a course, and we want to have students become crime reporters, what are your recommendations? What should be the mindset of the teachers? What should be the way students are connected?
I should tell you very frankly,
we definitely want to
teach to the students who want to become journalists. Those 5 W's, 1 H.
Agreed.
Throw it off.
Okay. Very interesting. Okay.
Throw it off. You don't need that. Once you're in the field, you'll know the whole sequence. If you watch a thing happening, then you know how it started and how it ended. So you don't need 5 W's there.
Agreed.
What you need is the presence of mind, your eyes, your ears, your nose.
And common sense.
So journalism cannot be taught in a classroom.
Wow. So you're saying from day one, just get them onto the streets?
Get them onto the streets. I had an intern just a few days back from PDU, Daksh. He was assigned to me, and the first day I told him, roam 160 kilometers in the city.
Wow.
And come up with a story. That's all I told him.
Wow.
And he came up with a city and said, there are 33 flyovers in the city, and there are 23 pathos.
That you only find when you go out.
So even if, one starts from home to go to the office, eyes, ears, nose open, you'll find 2 stories.
Interesting. So I think the whole thing should be eyes, ears, nose, EENO. Should be instead of all the W's and H.
And the inverted pyramids and all those stuff which we were taught. Kuch kaam ka nahi hai wo. It's of no use. Information is power. Language. There's a famous saying. I think it's written somewhere in Washington Post. They need a journalist who's a French and knows a bit of English.
Wow. Interesting.
Why do we have sub-editors?
Absolutely, yeah. True.
They have to work on the language.
True.
What we are paid for is for information.
Point. No, because
So you take on I'm talking about columnists or those anchors sitting on etc. I'm talking about true journalists. They were never good at language.
True. No, I know. I mean, we have a common ex-journalist.
If a journalist starts focusing on the language, he would lose his focus on the information.
Well said. Very well said. It's true. I mean, we have a common journalist who writes in Bengali and people translate to English.
He would write it in a very simple language, a language that a reader would understand.
Yeah. Agreed.
You are not here to teach English to a reader.
True.
He is here to provide information to a reader.
Well said. And he is supposed to frame the story.
Yes. And
true. Good point. Interesting. And so in today's journalism, the way it's shaping up, the way it's happening, should we also teach youngsters and students to learn to shout loudly, walk around aimlessly and try and pretend to do a story? Isn't that also one of the sad state of journalism today?
It is. Shouting in the studio, moving about, sitting in helicopters made of, I don't know what, animation or that.
Animated choppers.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, unfortunate.
That's not factual report. It hurts some.
Basically, it hurts. Especially for all the Puritans of the earlier age who really struggled the way you have. I'm sure it was really painful.
It's painful to watch this. I have not watched television, say, for the past, 4 years?
Actually. Yeah, it's only slanging matches, nothing else.
Yeah. Nor do I completely rely on social media.
Great. I think a true journalist will also have to start questioning a lot, not really trusting a lot. In today's world, at least.
Journalism is all about questioning it.
True.
Unless you question someone or something.
Yeah.
Then you won't know the fact.
Actually.
And there are ways, Journalism is all about building sources. How you build your sources? Where do you start from? You also have to smoke a BD if you don't want to.
Well said. True.
You have to smoke a BD with a pune. Because information, as far as my experience goes, it trickles down from the
the most uncommon sources. Absolutely.
You confirm it with the upper.
Yeah. It's true.
That is where you build your sources. That trust. What I have done through my career is that I have kept about 3 or 4 such good
friend sources
who tell me things. To be very frank, I never write against them. Because that is where I get my information.
Tips.
Because I have to address the larger part of the society.
And in a way, they're also doing a good, digital society. Absolutely. We're not being identified. Helps them get more information.
So instead of focusing, I'll just be addressing the youngsters who want to be journalists. Instead of focusing on the language, on the sophistication of being a journalist, they should be rather a bold personality.
And then social awkwardness should go off. I mean,
they should never be shy of speaking a certain sort of a language. If they have to.
Agreed.
Right? अभी if you are there, आप एक तरह की language बोल रहे हो, तो I have to be
relatable to you.
Actually, so if you are going to meet a senior officer, you should be dressed in a certain way. But nowadays, what has happened is there are a lot of youngsters who come into the civil service. So you have to get yourself dressed up like that, so that automatically that relatability happens.
Agreed. Totally agree. Well said. Very well said. I think very, very
If I go in a suit and all those things with that shining watch in my hand, that won't match that personality.
True. So, very interesting. Brilliant, sir. Thank you very, very much for sharing all the insight.
Thanking you for having me here.
I think we both of us should thank Karnawat University. So I think they're good for having us. I think this will be very impressive because the youngsters really need to have this perspective from the old school, if I may want to use the word, forget journalism.
Forget WhatsApp.
Forget WhatsApp, absolutely. But that can't be the university or that can't be the source.
That will never give you a tool.
Yeah, it has to be huge human source network.
You have to take into consideration the WhatsApp messages, but then you have to work on it.
Well said. Very well said.
You have to work on.
Perfect. Thank you, and we look forward to having you more. Very, very impressed with your voice and the way you deliver. We really hope you have a channel one day and become a
Let's hope it happens.
A video reporter also one of the days.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Nice talking to you.
Very same.
And to
Karnawat University. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's